All right, getting started. I am going to be working normal probability distributions tonight. A smaller set. We went through quite a few last night in class. I felt like that was very sufficient. But I'm going to go through just a few additional problems tonight. I'll talk about them. Whoops. My professional phone to check my voice was up. So I felt like that was adequate last night, but I want to do just a few more and just go through it again and leave room for questions. Of course, online office hours are always for questions for my face-to-face students in class. But for anybody else that comes on and has an interest in what we're doing, by all means, ask away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started now. I'll work through just a few problems, and if anybody has questions, I will take them appropriately. Here we go. All right, tonight I am working away from the Keynote distributions a little bit. And one reason that I'm doing that is because Keynote allows me to write on there. It allows me to undo, but it doesn't allow me to erase and add and do anything. So once I junk up the page, I'm done. If you remember from just a couple of nights ago stream, I have to sit there and undo forever. It's kind of a very unprofessional way to do things. So anyway, I am, oh shoot. Time out. These daggone, let me tell you something. iPhones, as I'm talking through this, I had my Twitch stream up, and I do that just so I can take a quick look either on YouTube or Twitch, make sure that my mic and everything's working okay and I'm not sitting here muted. It started, I had sent a few messages out to Twitch, starting soon, thanks for stopping by. As I was talking through all that, it was collecting it and about to send it to Twitch. It was about this long. Anyway, that's user error. I realize that's not Apple's fault necessarily, but here we go. Okay, so let me get my notes situated here, and I've got my iPad. Let me just shift just a little bit, and I am going to be going back and forth between this screen right here, and then I'll come back to this screen right here. And I want to stay on the larger screen to start with because I want to work with the normal curve itself, and make sure that, as mentioned in class last night, when you get these problems, when you get these numbers, even if you don't draw it every time, you're visualizing this curve. So you have a good idea logically when you get your answer, if it makes sense in terms of what you know about normal curves already. All right. If you'll notice in the bottom of this screen here, we've got a non-standard normal distribution, which is your data. And then we've got a standardized, which is your z-scores across the bottom. In other words, it's a standard normal curve where the mean is 0, standard deviation is 1. The other curves, there could be billions and billions to infinite different variations of them. We don't have tables and charts and everything that we can work with the numbers there. We have to standardize it, and then we can work with it. And we talked about that in class quite a bit. So let's get started. Let me push this out of the way. Let me center that. Okay. So I'm going to start here. I don't need that upper area. There we go. 1 second. Push this further. Bring this back. All right. Let's center it because I'm a little OCD with that. Let's just do a very simple. Here's what I want to find. I want to find the probability, and the first one I'll start with is this one, that z falls between 0 and 2.13. Okay, close parenthesis. I want to find the probability that the z-score will fall between 0 and 2.13. Now, on my, let's go green. On my chart, what I'm looking at is 0 right here and 2.13. 2.13 is probably about right there. I don't know why that's, yes I do now. Here we go. Want it a little bit thicker. In fact, I want it thicker than that. There we go. Push the green up a little bit. All right, we're going from 0 to here. So I want to find the area underneath here, right? I want to find that area. Now, as this is the visualization of it. This is why I wanted to use this tonight. This is the way that we look at it. So I'm trying to find the area between the z-score 0 and the z-score 2.13. That area will give me the probability that z falls in that particular scale, that scale space. So right here we're looking at 0, and right here we are looking at 2.13. Okay. Now, I can use my table. I can use a lot of different, I can use my calculator, which is what I'm going to use right now. So remember that the way that we're going to work this, clear some of that out, is we're just there. And remember, there's many different ways to skin this cat. In other words, you can find a lot of different syntax to do this. The one that I use is very simple. I just take the far left z-score, far right z-score, find the area in between those two, and there I've got it. So what we're going to do is oh boy. Still getting used to this particular program. So we're going to go second vars, as I write in what looks like crayon. Second vars, which brings me to my distributions page. That's okay. Maybe we go back one more there. I'm going to backtrack. Doesn't look like anybody's on right now, at least not asking questions. So I'm going to backtrack and try that again. So on the calculator, we're going to go second vars, brings me to my distributions. So on the calculator, we are second vars. And then this looks just like your calculator, however, it looks slightly different. This has more stuff on it. This actually tells you the syntax, but doesn't tell you the syntax that I'm using. We've used the one in my class, which is very simple. This gives you a little bit, this tells you lower bound, upper bound, etc. We're going normal CDF, there it is. And I'm going to go from 0 to 2.13. And there it is. 0.4834, we'll go with that. So the answer here, 0.4834. Again, very simple example. I want to walk through a few of these. One of the biggest things I wanted to illustrate tonight was a better layout of the normal curve. The classroom that we teach in is great. It had its day, but people have written on the board that they should not have, and the lighting in there is not such, and the projector is not bright enough, in my opinion, to show what I'm writing or showing like this does. So I may next semester bring my laptop, older laptop, Mac, and see if I can just hook to it and hook to the projector. We'll see. See how that goes. All right. There's that, 0.4384. In this same example, I'm going to take a look at a different one. So let me erase this out. And on this other side, what I would do, and I would do this in like this. So I'm going to say the probability that z falls between negative 2.13 and 0. So I'm going to go to flip to this other side. So now I'm going to negative 2.13, which again is somewhere right in there. And then 0. So I want to find this area. Well, guess what? This is a symmetric normal curve. So if this is the area between 0 and 2.13, then the area between 0 and negative 2.13, however you're looking at this particular side, symmetrically is going to be the same. So we're going to have 0.4384. I'm sorry, 0.4834. There we go. Okay. A little bit of symmetry there. Let me back up to here. My Stream Deck's working pretty good. Okay. And let me erase all this out and let me take a look at a different one. We're going to get to a couple of problems tonight with some context to them. Hopefully. And we'll see if somebody comes on, if anybody has any questions. Remember, one thing in class that I've asked you to keep doing is to keep, let me see if I can get it larger, yeah, is to keep working on the homework problems. And this is the time to bring the questions for that. I had a couple of questions last night from the homework problems. I love to see that. That seems to be a dying thing where people will do that for you, ask questions on the homework. But I think it's a great way to clarify whether you're doing it right or whether you're off by just a smidgen. Is it a rounding error? Is it a calculator syntax error? Is it a computation error? Apologies. I should not be drinking a little bit of Mountain Dew while I'm doing this. I got a little bit down the wrong pipe. Let's take a look at another one. Let's look at actually a simpler one. No. We'll stay with the same formatting. Let's go here. And let's change it to blue. And let's go probability that z falls between negative 1.45 and 2.10. Okay? So pictorially, and you can draw this. A sketch takes really 15 seconds to draw. I do it all the time in class. You see me doing that. And you see me run into issues too where I tried to crunch it all without a visual and I might be slightly off. I catch that slightly off because up here I've got a visual in my head of logically what it should be, pretty close to what it should be. So that's how I'm usually able to catch that. And I want all of you to be able to do that too. We've done a pretty good job with this section overall. So I just want to advance that for you. So we are looking at negative 1.45, 45, I don't know. Maybe here. Negative 1.45 and 2.10 will be somewhere right there. So extend that up. And within this, we're trying to find that area between those two. That area equates to the probability that the z-score will land between here and here. In context, the probability that an individual's test score will fall between 80 and 90 or 90 to 100 or whatever range you're looking at. We're looking at z-scores here, so we don't really have a context with data. But that's once you move it to the z-scores, then you can calculate it this way and determine probabilities back to the original data. Okay, so let's go switch back to here. I'm really starting to like Ecamm. I'm going to tell you that, and I'm not a salesman for them, but I like this much better. OBS is too clunky for me and too much of a learning curve. I don't have time in my life to learn OBS. I can do what I'm doing with stats here and work there. So just saying. So we're going to go second vars normal CDF. And again, my syntax in class is just the leftmost, we're reading left to right, leftmost z-score to the rightmost. So we go negative 1.45. See, try to cram it in here. I actually don't have to because I can move the screen. So let me erase that out. One reason I'm switching some of the tools that I use on here, the freeform is pretty easy to use. Normal CDF. We've got negative 1.45, comma, 2.10. Okay, no problem. All right, on to calc. So I've got second vars, normal CDF, negative 1.45, comma, 2.10. 0.9086. So there it is. So back to the original. My area is 9086. There we go. I'm moving around probably a little too much. I apologize. There we go. Okay. So there it is. Another problem completed. Symmetry, If you went negative 2.10 to 1.45, we'd be sitting at the exact same thing. I'm not going to draw that one out for you. Now let me erase this off, and I will do a couple of different looks. Again, this goes back to what we were doing in class last night, just a few more examples. And I'm mainly here for questions in case you've got anything. But while I'm here, I'll work through some probs. That's the cool way to say problem. All right. Let's backtrack, simplify a little bit, and let's go the probability that z is less than 2.88. All right. No problem. Visually, I can see the normal curve in my head. I see $2.88 would be right out here, closer to 3. This is just a sketch, so it's not completely correct. And we're looking at the area from here all the way to negative infinity. Okay, no problem. How much do you think this would be? So if you're just glancing at this, this is almost the entire curve, isn't it? If you remember from my discussions, I do it a lot here too. I talk about from negative 3.49 to 3.49 is basically 100% of this curve, right? Anywhere farther out, you might get 1,000, 10,000, and so on decimal change with some of your numbers, but not very much at all. Even though this is asymptotic and goes all the way to negative infinity that way and infinity this way, there's very little significant area underneath there. It does continue to go. There's very little significant data. So what we use in class, and let me just go back to this. We're going to go second vars, normal CDF. We're going to go from the leftmost. Now the leftmost value is not going to be negative infinity because I can't insert that in here. It's not an actual number. But if you go out to negative 10, you're way far enough out. And we use 10 and 10 in my class, just an arbitrary number that I chose. Is easy to remember on either side when you're headed to infinity on either side. So we go from negative 10 to 2.88, and that will give us what we need. Second enter, that's not what I want. Second vars, normal CDF, and I'm going from negative 10, comma, 2.88. Enter. 0.9980. There it is. Oop. Didn't realize I could do that, but I like it. Okay, so 0.9980. All right, so there it is. And like we were talking about just a second ago, logically, that's almost all the curve, and it's 99% of it. Almost right. It's right at 100. So for all practical purpose, that is a full 1 underneath the curve. Okay. Let's look at the other side of this. Oops. So let me take this part off. We know we're going to negative infinity here, but let's look for the area under the curve here to infinity. So let's look at the flip side of this. Let's go the probability that z is greater than 2.88. You've already found the other side, so you could very quickly turn it and just 1 minus 0.9980, which, if I was going to be very exact, 0.002. So that would be that area going all the way to infinity. I could also use the calculator. So let me, and I'm sorry, I've been working on the calculator and just working on this main screen, but I've actually been working everything up here. So let me go back to the calculator, second vars, normal CDF. God, I thought of, in my mind, everybody could see what I was doing. So I'm going to now go from 2.88, comma, out to 10. There we go. 0.0012 or 0.002, however you want to look at it. Same. So we're okay. So we went one direction, we went the other. And again, really apologies that I didn't have that up. I'm sitting there talking through it like you could see it, and I've got nobody. There's probably nobody on, to be honest with you. Yeah, there's not. But there was nobody giving me any. Maybe there's one person. I see one on there, and I think I had already exited out of here when I had the possible text going to Twitch debacle. Yeah, there may be one person on. I appreciate whoever that is. But I didn't have any feedback. Nobody was saying, hey, wait a second, we can't see that. So, not a blamer, just stating it as it is. All right, let's look at a different one. Let me erase, and I'm really liking Freeform. I also have Microsoft Whiteboard. I may, before the end of this broadcast, I may bring up Microsoft Whiteboard and try it out on here just to see, just to compare it to what I'm using here. I like this one fine. I really like the fact that I can move around like that. The eraser and everything that I'm using down here works fine. Okay, Crayola crayon. Let's go blue. I'll just make up some, I was looking at my old notes, but let me just make up some arbitrary numbers here. And let me just go with, let's say you have a normal distribution that has a mean of 180 and a standard deviation of 4. We'll keep the numbers very basic for the context of these questions. So a mean of 180, standard deviation of 4. So right here in the middle, oops, that's 180, right? That's your 0 standard deviation away from the mean right there. That's your 0th point on the standard normal curve. We're at 180. If you go out 1 standard deviation, you're at 184. If you go out 2, you are at 188. And if you go out 3, you're 4 more, which is 192. If you go back this direction, out 1 standard deviation, which would be right there, you're going to go back 4, so you're 176. You're going to go back 4 more, which is 172, and back 4 more, which is 168. I'll double check my numbers. Yep, looks right. So there we are. So that's what we're looking at on here. Now we're gonna just do some I'll do a very simple one right here, and I'll just go, what's the probability that your X value is going to fall between 172 and 188. All right, so what we are looking here is here and here. The area between 2 standard deviations on one side and 2 on the other. Now, we know from empirical rule that 2 standard deviations, if you find the area between 2 standard deviations on both sides, you're looking at 95%. 95% of the area falls between those two. If I go next and transfer this 172 to a z-score, I'm going to get -2. We already have that up there. That's why it's simple numbers to start with. If I take this 188, transform it into a z-score, then I've got 2. So basically what I am doing here is I am going normal CDF -2 to 2. Okay, on the calculator, let's see exactly how close we are. Normal CDF -2, 2. 95%, right? Remember, empirical is just saying that's about 95%. That's about 68%. That's about 99.7. And there you see it. So 95% of the area falls between 2 standard deviations on each side. The question was, what's the probability that the data value itself will fall between 172 and 188? Well, it just so happens that those z-scores are 2 and -2. Very easy to decipher, especially if you know the empirical rule and work with this a little bit. All right, so let's do a different one. Okay, and then I can just erase these up here. Let's go a little bit abstract. In other words, you can choose any number. Oh shoot! you can choose any number on that line between 2 and -2. So let's go the probability. We're not looking between those two numbers, so I can take all of that out. Not just between 2 and -2, any number on the line from infinity to -infinity. So let's go the probability that z is less than 184.712. Let's say that we're really nailing it down. Remember, I say most of the time in class, your accuracy is fine. We're not sending a rocket to the moon. We're not filling a pharmaceutical order, some drugs in a bottle for somebody. So we don't need to be so exact, or somebody will get hurt. So, but in this case, we're going to get it a little bit more accurate. So what's the probability? And I don't mean z. That was wrong. It should be x there. What's the probability that the x value from this data, from this context, falls below 184.712? Okay. Well, 184.712. Well, I don't know where that's at. Somewhere there. That's 184. It's really only about right here. So I'm going to go from here, and I'm going less than. So I'm going all the area from here all the way to -infinity. Okay, there's my visual. I can see that. And by the way, I hope those of you that are watching at home, all one of you, thank you, that are watching from home can see, I don't care if you're able to see me necessarily, but can see the calculator and the graphics that I'm putting up here. So that's really, I'm trying to bring it all home with this, especially for my students in class. So I need to make that 184.712. I need to find the z-score for that. So let's do that. So in order to find the z-score, you take the x value, you subtract the mean, that's Greek letter mu, for those of you following along at home. In this case, I don't really like green here. I'm going to switch the color. 184.712 subtract, the mean was 180, sorry, it took me a second. Subtract 180 divided by 4. All right. Clear. 184.712 subtract 180 equals divided by 4. 1.178. Okay. 1.178 would be this position here. So I'm about in the right spot. I think I was pretty spot on there. So now I'm just looking at I found the z-score. So now I can go back into my table, either my paper copy table, and find that, get close to it, because our table goes out to 2 decimal places. Or extrapolate somewhere in between and get as accurate as I can. Or I can go normal CDF and go from my leftmost number, which we're using in class, -10. No strategy to that other than it's an easy number on either side that gives us as far out as we need to be. So -10 to 1.178. Okay. Second, vars, normal CDF. I keep looking down like I can't keep, short-term memory loss, like I can't keep up with this. 1.178. There we go. 0.8806. There it is. All right. So there's your answer to that particular, finding the area underneath that curve. Normal curve, we standardized it, and we found the area using the calculator. In this particular instance, if I had enough room on the screen, I'd bring up a table and kind of work through that. I had to figure out how to bring it into this, and then I'll go from there. So I think I don't know that I've got any more. I was going to try to go to some context problems, but I think with only one person in here, and the fact that we covered this in quite a bit of detail last night, I think I feel good with this. I will be back on next Tuesday night. And right now I'm going to try to bring up Microsoft Whiteboard because I want to see how that looks as compared to this, just for myself. But I will be on for sure next Tuesday night, and I'll take any questions that you've got from the homework, anything that you've got leading into next Wednesday's test. We're going to have a test on normals next week. I think after last night's class, I feel very good with it for you guys. And I liked the fact that on the binomial quiz, everybody did fairly well on it. So adding points back to your previous test will be a good thing. And I feel like we've mastered the binomial a little bit better, which was one of the most missed ones on the exam. So, okay. I think that's all for this. If anybody is in here while I'm adjusting and bringing up the Microsoft Whiteboard just to test it out, if anybody has any questions, just at least kind of raise your hand in chat and just say, hey, I have a question, or throw it in there. And I'll keep looking up and checking that. And if it's a question I can answer, if it's pertaining to what we're talking about here, I'll be glad to answer it. So, okay, let me step back. I'm going to go. We'll go to the main page. I'll switch it up a little bit like this. Microsoft Whiteboard. Do I even have it downloaded? Yes, there it is. Hopefully I'm logged in and everything. I think I am. So Microsoft Whiteboard coming right up, and it actually did okay with my mirroring 360. Whiteboard wants to use that. Cancel. I don't care to do that. That looks like I'm going to have to do that, isn't it? So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to take it to a screen that isn't showing my screen. So when I log in, I don't give away some great details of my little junky account. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got Microsoft Whiteboard up, and I was bringing in the same file I had up there before, just the normal curve, the standard normal curve, and it says it may take several minutes to prepare my files. I don't know why. That's silly. I'm going to try bringing it up again. Okay, should come right in. Yes, allow that. There we go, and I will go into Untitled. Okay, good enough, and I'm going to format the background. I'll make it, I don't like that. I'm going to make it black. Let's make it gray. And let's make it with dots. I can move this around as well, so let's see how I like this layout. Whoops. I don't know what that is. So lots of stuff that I could add there. Not what I want to do though. I want to take a look at this and let's see how this shows up. So if I'm talking about normal CDF, that's kind of weird, the drawing on that. I think I was messing around with this the other night. This is a highlighter. Actually, I like that. I just have to be very conscious about my writing in order to make it thicker or not thick. But I don't know why. I got 3 markers up here. I guess so you could have 3 different colors. Okay, if I'm using that for the negative 2.10 to 4. All right. Again, I'm just messing around. And Born Prairie Kike G8N65 said that the best viewers are on streamboo.com. Remove the space. I don't know who that is. So thanks for stopping by though. I appreciate it. If you have any questions on stats, by all means place them in the chat. That's a person coming up from Twitch. So if you're on YouTube and you come back to see this, you won't see that chat. Not a big deal, but people are always trying to get you to respond, I suppose, or go to their site, whatever that is. It doesn't sound good. All right. Now I could draw. I could put like that. I can roll that way. I could push it up. I can bring in pictures. Sorry, again, it's going to be quiet while I'm messing around with Microsoft Whiteboard. I've already finished my normal curve work for the night with no questions. But if you have a question, pop them up there and I'll hear it and I'll take a look up. Right now I'm just kind of messing around with this. I actually like freeform better, I think, than this. Not that I dislike this. Seems to have a lot of stuff. Let's use this template. Okay. I don't really like that. I don't really like the writing of this Microsoft Whiteboard. I don't dislike it. I can put faces up there. Very disappointed. Okay. Great. But the writing, the pins. So let me go back to this one. This was the marker. Let me make the marker, like, instead of 3, we'll make it Well, it won't allow me, will it? It allows me to go to 5. Okay, whatever. Let's go dark green, change it up a little bit. And we're going to go summation of x minus u squared, blah, blah, blah. So that's a little thick. So let's bring it, I want to bring it to 4. Doesn't seem to want me to go to 4, but it always goes to 3. Well, I don't understand that. Will not let me keep it at 4. Okay. So it will let me go back to 3. Yes. So let's go. Same thing. Summation x minus. If I'm particular about the way I'm writing, I can ensure that I don't smear it so that all that, like a sigma, doesn't look like that. Can also do text, I suppose, with a keyboard. Don't know why I would want to do that. Maybe I would add that before the class. I would type in a problem, but that's kind of a lot. That's a lot of work for each stream. Okay. All right. So I think I'm done. I'm going to draw this to a close. So I'm back to the original. So I worked with a few more normals tonight just while I was waiting for any types of questions from students. Had none. It's okay. This will be on video on demand on YouTube. It'll also be on Twitch, which is also, if you use Twitch, you're more than welcome to look at the video on demand on there. Certainly it's public. And I'll be back on next Tuesday for sure. I may be on some stints this weekend. I may come up and try some different things with Microsoft Whiteboard and that, or with pattern interruption. So I've been working with pattern interruption with my page, and I'll show you what I'm talking about right here, where I bring up a page, and the pattern interruption is just different from before, right? Just changes it up a little bit. So I've got the problem, and then I've got the steps for the calculator that are always visible right there as we walk through it. Then we'll just walk through the problem. So I'll probably work a little bit with that this weekend. But next Tuesday for sure I'll be on. I'm not going to belabor this anymore. I appreciate those of you that may have stopped by. Even Born Prairie KYCG8N65 that sent me a message on Twitch about best viewers on streamboo.com. Remove the space. That person came on. Probably think might be the only person on here, but that's okay. If you come back and watch the video, I appreciate it. I'll be back on for next Tuesday for sure. And thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.